things they shouldn't. The comments knew things they shouldn't. I want to tell you something that I've been sitting with for a while now, not because I have an explanation, I don't, but because I think putting it into words might help me understand it a little better, or maybe just sleep a little better. That's the thing about ASMR, right? You're not here for answers, you're here to exhale. So settle in, let me tell you about the account. It started about 8 months ago. I'd been going through a hard stretch. Nothing dramatic, just the slow accumulation of small stresses that eventually starts to feel like weather. I wasn't sleeping well. I'd lie awake at 2 in the morning, cataloguing the details of my day like a grocery list. Picked up the prescription, called my mother, saw the grey cat that sits on the porch 3 doors down, the one that watches you like it's taking notes. I'd always been a writer in the quiet, private way that doesn't lead anywhere. Journals I never finished, notes to no one. Posting publicly felt like something I wasn't allowed to do, so I made an account with a name that meant nothing and started writing there. The internet is full of anonymous voices. I thought mine would simply disappear into it. The account was completely ordinary. I'd write a paragraph or 2 about my day, what the weather was doing, something I noticed on a walk, a small thing that had moved me. I wrote about the way the light hit a particular stretch of street in the late afternoon, how it turned the puddles from a recent rain into small, temporary mirrors. I wrote about a song I couldn't stop hearing in my head, the one my father used to hum while he made coffee. I wrote about nothing that anyone could trace back to me. I was careful about that in the small, thoughtless way you're careful when you don't actually think anything is at risk. The first comment that gave me pause came after a post about insomnia. I'd written about how I'd been counting the sounds in my apartment instead of sheep. The refrigerator hum, the pipes, the occasional footstep from whoever lived above me. Nothing identifying, just an atmospheric sketch. And someone replied, "The person upstairs, do they always pace at that hour, or is it new?" I stared at that comment for a long time. It was phrased like a casual follow-up question, like conversation. I told myself it was a reasonable inference. Of course people in apartments hear footsteps. Of course the commenter was just engaging with the image. I replied that yes, it seemed new. The commenter said, "Those adjustments to a schedule are worth noticing." I thought it was a strange thing to say. I moved on. Small wrongnesses are easy to set aside. We are very good at setting things aside. A few weeks later, I wrote about the grey cat again, just an observation, that I'd seen it in a slightly different spot that morning, closer to the corner, watching the street with that particular stillness cats have when they've decided something. The same commenter replied almost immediately, "Is that the one with the notched ear, on Sycamore?" I hadn't mentioned a street name. I hadn't mentioned the notch in the cat's ear, though it did have one, a small V-shaped absence on the left. I told myself I must have mentioned both things in an earlier post, and simply forgotten. I went back through everything I'd written. I hadn't, but it was such a small thing, the kind of small thing that hides easily inside an explanation you've already decided to believe. I started paying more attention to the comments. Most of them were perfectly normal, brief, kind, the usual texture of online conversation, but this one account, the same username each time, seemed to know things, nothing alarming, nothing that would hold up as evidence of anything if I tried to articulate it to someone else, just this quality of knowing, the way they'd ask about my sister without me having mentioned a sister, the way they referenced the blue jacket. And I did own a blue jacket, the one I'd bought at the second-hand shop, though I'd never posted a photo, never described my clothes. Once, I wrote about hearing music from a neighbor's window, and they wrote back, "The one with the wind chimes. West-facing. Has she always played that kind of music?" There were wind chimes. The window was west-facing. I had never written any of that. You can dismiss one coincidence. You can file two away. Three starts to feel like a pattern. And patterns, once seen, cannot be unseen. I want to be clear about what I wasn't doing. I wasn't frightened, exactly. The comments never said anything threatening. They didn't make demands or revelations. They just asked gentle questions and offered quiet observations that were too specific to be guesses. It felt less like being watched and more like being read, like something was receiving the same broadcast I was transmitting, but picking up signals I hadn't consciously sent. I began to wonder, in a way that felt both rational and completely unhinged, whether I was somehow including more detail than I thought, whether the anxiety brain that catalogued everything had found its way into my writing in ways my reading brain didn't catch. I tried an experiment. I wrote a post that was entirely fictional, nothing from my actual life, just an invented walk through an invented neighborhood. The comment came within the hour. "The gate at the end of that street. You've always avoided it, haven't you?" There was no gate in the post. There was no gate in the invented neighborhood. But there is a gate. There is one at the end of a particular path I walk near my apartment. And yes, I always go around it. I don't know why. I've never known why. I just always do. The invented and the real are more connected than we admit. Perhaps that's all it was. I stopped posting for a while. Weeks. The account sat quiet and I moved through my days without transmitting, without broadcasting into the anonymous dark. And somehow, I can't fully explain this, it made me more aware of everything. Walking the street, I noticed where the grey cat was, and I thought, someone might know that. Making coffee, I thought, someone might know that. I started to feel observed not by the internet, but by my own attention, as if the act of writing had trained something in me to notice. And now it noticed whether I wrote or not. It was not entirely comfortable, but it was interesting. When I came back, I wrote a single post, short. I described a dream I'd had, very simple, just a landscape, a field, the sense of being entirely alone in a good way, no identifying information, no details, just the feeling of it. The comment came, "That field, is it the one near where you grew up? The one behind the old school?" And it was. I had grown up near a field. There was a school. I had never written about my childhood, never hinted at geography. I sat with that for a long time. I still don't know what to make of it. I've thought of several explanations, and none of them close entirely, that I was writing more than I realized, and the commenter was only reflecting it back, that it was confirmation bias. I noticed the hits and ignored the misses, that there's some part of us that broadcasts on frequencies we can't consciously access, and occasionally someone receives it. I don't say this to frighten you. I say it because it shifted something in me, a gentle, unsettling loosening of the idea that we are as private as we think we are. What we keep to ourselves may be less sealed we imagine, and perhaps that's all right. I want to tell you what I did next, because I think it matters to the story. I didn't delete the account. I didn't message the commenter either. Something about that felt wrong, like pulling on a thread in a sweater that's keeping you warm. Instead, I did something that might sound strange. I wrote a post specifically for them, not a test this time, and not fiction, just a direct address, quiet and open, the way you might speak into a dark room if you thought there might be someone in it. I wrote, I know you're there. I don't know what you are. I'm not asking you to explain. I just want you to know that I notice you the same way you notice me. The post got one comment. It said, good, that's all it ever needed. To be seen and to acknowledge that you are seen. Perhaps that's the whole of it. I've thought a lot about what kind of thing could leave a comment like that, and I keep coming back to how strange it is that we think of the internet as a place we go to be alone together, separately broadcasting into a shared space, surprised when something broadcasts back. We send so much of ourselves outward without thinking about what might receive it, not just the words we type, but the hours we keep, the things we return to, the shape of our attention as it moves through digital space. I read somewhere once that loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of witnesses. I had been lonely in that slow accumulation way, and something had been witnessing. I'm still not sure how to feel about that. There's one more thing I should tell you. About a month after that last post, I came home to find the grey cat sitting outside my door, not its usual porch 3 houses down. My door, specifically, as though it had walked there with purpose. It looked at me the way it always does, that unhurried assessment, and then it turned and walked back down the hallway and out through the building's propped open front door. I don't think it was a message. I don't think cats are messenger animals in any cosmic sense. But I noticed it, and I wrote about it that night, in the quiet way I've learned to write, with the understanding that writing anything sends it somewhere, and that somewhere is not always empty. I still use the account sometimes. I write the same kind of posts, small observations, nothing important. The comments come, and sometimes they know things, and sometimes they don't. I've stopped trying to track it. I've started thinking of it the way I think of the grey cat at the corner, watching, noting, present, but ultimately asking nothing of me. Just another thing in the neighborhood, just another set of eyes. Whatever it is, human intuition, coincidence, some strange resonance in the way we write ourselves into the world. I've decided to find it interesting rather than alarming. I'm trying to find a lot of things interesting rather than alarming these days. It's an ongoing project. Wherever you are right now, whatever is settling into quiet around you, I hope you can feel that same loosening. The day is done. The things you carry don't need to be carried right now. They'll be there when you need them. For now, there's just this. You're breathing, slowing, the sounds of the particular place you're in. Whatever small mysteries are drifting at the edges of your awareness. You don't need to solve them tonight. Some things are better held softly, turned over without urgency, like a smooth stone that fits perfectly in the palm. Let your mind grow easy. Let the edges go soft. Thank you for being here with me tonight. If the story kept you company in the dark, I'd be so grateful if you liked and subscribed. It helps more quiet insomniacs find their way to this corner of the internet. Sleep well and let the strange things be strange. You are safe.